Hey everyone, it's John Grimm with Grimm Swords and Knives, and today we're going to be taking a quick look at the Eafengrow EF33. I purchased this one on Amazon, and in Amazon you get a couple of different variations and handle scales. The jade one called out to me most. So jumping right into it, let's do dimensions. You're looking at a blade length of 3 7/16. You're looking at a handle length of about 3 11/16, give or take, and an overall length of about 7 9/16, I believe. It's also a very thick blade. The blade stock isn't all that bad, but like the handle itself is very thick, especially in comparison to the knife. You can see just how gappy it is along the sides, on the back. One of the liners is milled out, as you can see right up in there. This knife does feature a captured pivot. So this side right here is captured, and this is the side you unscrew. I'm not 100% certain, but I get the feeling that this knife is a knockoff of a Shirogorov, just based off of the design. I believe that the Shirogorov Neolite or something like that looks similar to this, and I wouldn't put it past Eafengrow to do another lookalike. It's kind of like one of their things. The action on this knife is impressive. Push button technique on the flipper works best. You just kind of press and it fires open. It doesn't exactly fall shut, but it doesn't take a lot of effort to close it either. It's a good knife. It's actually probably my favorite knife currently, and for good reason. Blade centering is also very good. But the reason that I love this knife, and the reason it's so nice, is because I spent about a solid 2 or 3 weeks just working on this knife and honing it and maintaining it, because when I first got it, no matter how hard you flick this knife, it probably wouldn't come out any more than this. It was really bad. It wouldn't fall shut the way it can kind of do now. The blade centering was horrible. It was off to the show side, almost rubbing up against the steel liner. The knife also runs on steel ball bearings captured in Teflon washers. It's not absolutely the best option, but it works well. It's great. First thing that I don't like about the knife is the pocket clip. That's probably the main thing I don't like about it. You see that? There's like no space in there for pants whatsoever. Like if you have thick cargo shorts or something, you can't wear this knife. It literally won't go through. Do a bit of a size comparison with some of the other knives I have. There's your spider coefficient. So you can see it's slightly longer than the Spyderco in both the handle length and blade length. Here's a CRKT squid. Little squiddy boy. This knife is absolutely dwarfed by most knives. The Eafengrow 0456, something like that. So they have the same blade length, but the reason the 0456 looks bigger is because it has a longer handle and it sticks out a bit more, like in this area. Yeah, and the Ganzo, just because it was there. The Ganzo has a slightly longer blade and a longer handle, so you can see that the Eafengrow is almost dwarfed in comparison. Alright, that's enough of comparisons. Sorry, this video is kind of like jumbled. There are a couple things that I absolutely love about this knife. The action is so good now. Like really, it's impressive. It's actually a good flipper knife. The milled liner to reduce some weight. This knife was pretty heavy. The lanyard hole is in the back spacer. You can see that there's a hole right there, and it's kind of hidden away by the handle scales. I think that's nice, because that means you can disassemble and maintain the knife without having to remove the lanyard and put a new one back on every time. Some other things I like about this knife is that this thing is properly chamfered in every potential hotspot. Like there's no hotspot here because you can, hope you guys can see that well, but it's like they actually cut off the corners and smoothed it out, and that's everywhere, including the back portion where your hands would rub up against. There's an even deeper divot right in there where the flipper tab sticks out. See here on the lock bar, when you go to move it out, they did the same thing here. The lockup is nice. You see, focus. There we go. The lockup is about a good 20% or so, which means it's like secure enough to know that it's locked up, but it's also so easy to move out of the way. This is by far the funnest knife I have. Like for fidget factor, oh yeah, this knife has it. I could just do this all day because it doesn't hurt me. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when I was talking about this one or this one. Fidget factor was not that great because it genuinely hurt to use. Not an issue at all with the Eafengrow. I love this knife and I would recommend it to most people, but there are definitely some issues to keep in mind. Issue number one, and the biggest one, is that when you get this knife, it's very possible that the quality is going to be garbage and it's going to take some working on this knife. The only reason that this knife is so lovely to me right now is because, like I said, I spent a good 2 or 3 weeks working on it. And by working on it, I mean I disassembled it, cleaned everything off, lubricated it, worked on the washers a little bit, because one of the reasons the action was so bad is one of the washers had a little tiny piece of Teflon sticking out and it wasn't letting the bearing move. So I had to like sand that down just a little bit. The detent was awful, so I kind of used this and kind of dug into the detent hole a little bit, that way the detent ball falls in a little more. And I also moved the lock bar over to the side, that way it makes more contact with the blade. Yeah, it took some work, but this knife is worth it now, like really worth it. And the pocket clip. The pocket clip is really stinking shallow, not shallow, thin. You can only really wear this with thin pants. I guess you could call this like a classy gentleman's folder, but my problem with that is it's so thick and beefy. Those two things aside, pocket clip and a knife you'll have to work on, this knife is amazing and I would recommend it to anyone. It's going to cost you about $22 on Amazon. If you're interested in it, there will be a link down in the description. I recommend checking it out. I really do, especially if you want to like learn how to work on knives and maintain them. Here you go, it's a fixer-upper. One other thing to keep in mind, one final note, the G10 is very smooth. It almost feels like a polished glass feel. Like, you know, if there's like a glass bottle in the river and it's been there for a couple of years and it gets like stonewashed and it gets smoothed out, that's what the handle scales feel like. So it won't be great in slippery situations, but I can't imagine any of my viewers would be in slippery situations with a knife. Well, alright, this has been my slightly biased review of the Eafengrow EF33. Hope you guys found it informative, slightly entertaining, and most importantly, I hope the video made your day a little less grim.